Bethany, we're going to have a great summer. We're talking about the women in the Bible. Are you excited?
Yes, I am. We have so many characters that we're going to pull out from the Bible of amazing women.
So stay tuned.
We'll see you there.
We are talking about two sisters today, Leah and Rachel, two wives of Jacob. These two sisters struggle, and there's a competition there. What came to mind was a time when my sister and we had a common love interest. It was around high school, so you can imagine all the, hormones and all of that. And it tore us apart for a time. It brings out the worst in you. So in reading the story, I just, how difficult it had to have been for these two sisters who were married to the same man. How about you? Do you have a story?
I have two sisters. I'm the middle sister. My older sister and I are the closest in age. We're 4 years apart, but my younger sister and I are 5 years apart. And I felt growing up that anything she did, my younger sister, she could just do better than me. And I'm very competitive. And that just irked me. And we had a lot of sibling rivalry, and it was mostly me. Yeah, I could relate a little bit to how Rachel felt for Leah, as her sister one-upping her over and over. So I understand that.
Yeah, so it goes, right? Especially when we're young. Well, I wanted to kick it off with the key people in this story. And so we're going to jump in here. We've got Leah, Jacob's first wife. This is Laban's daughter. Rachel is Laban's daughter also, a shepherdess, Jacob's true love and second wife. We have Jacob, who is Isaac's son. Laban, the father of Rachel and Leah, and brother of Isaac's wife, Rebekah. Zilpah, maid to Leah. Bilhah, maid to Rachel. The maids were actually Laban's, and when the key people, Leah and Rachel, married Jacob, he gave those maids to Leah and Rachel. So those are the key people. It seems like a lot, but they all play an important role in this. And this story is mainly found in Genesis 29 through 35. All right, should we jump in, Bethany?
Yeah, Leah was the older sister. Rachel was the younger sister. So I had to look up a couple things because it says her eyes were feeble or dim or soft or something. Because I was like, what does this mean? And I found out a little bit about the Hebrew is rakat or rak, which simply means soft, tender, or delicate. The exact implication is divided into a few key theories. So we don't really know what that meant for Leah. Many modern translations term it as weak eyes, meaning she was afflicted or lacked the vibrant, bright luster, considering beautiful in that time, or lacking sparkle, lovely and gentle. So it wasn't, I always thought it was that she was ugly. In my mind, that's where I went because I've struggled with that my whole life. That's not necessarily the case. Right. She probably was beautiful in her own right. She just wasn't Rachel's beauty.
I want to comment one thing.
Ahead.
It says in 17, Genesis 29:17, and Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. So there you have that specific description of the two women, but you're right. It does not say anything about the rest of her. So that is a curious thing. So how about we go to the backstory in Genesis 28, and that would be Jacob, Isaac's son, leaves his home fleeing from his brother Esau, who wanted to kill him. And he goes with the charge from Isaac to not take a wife from Canaan, but to go to the land of Paddan Aram, if I'm saying that right, to his mother's brother's house named Laban, and take a wife from his daughters. And I want to say it's important to note that on this journey, the Lord appeared to Jacob in a dream, telling him, this land will be your land and your descendants after you, and I will be with you. Why do I say that? Because Jacob is now carrying the torch, if you will, of the covenant that God made with first Abraham, second Isaac, and now Jacob. So he's important, and anyone he marries is important too. So here we go. Okay, now here we are, Bethany, Laban. What happens? Jacob goes to find Laban's house. He sees people and sheep at the well.
So then he's like, well, what's going on? It's hours before it's time to water. And they're like, well, we have to all be here because the stone only moves once a day. It sounds
the
like
shepherds.
Maybe morning and night. Yeah. So they're all lining up and he sees Rachel and she's kind of cute. So he's like, I'm going to move the stone. Don't worry. I got this. I'll take care of
right?
you.
I feel like it was a straight, like, I got this. I got some muscles. I can do this.
I got it. So
we're kind of ad-libbing here a little bit, people.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
We're reading between the lines. So he opens the thing. He's asking, "Where do you come from?" And then she says, "I'm Laban's daughter, whatever." And he's like, "Praise the Lord. I found my relatives. Yay."
Well,
Now
well,
you
he
want to
did
take it
actually.
away?
That was pretty significant. It's almost like a love story, right? I mean, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love story. Love at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
And he kisses her, actually. He kisses
Mm-hmm.
her. I was shocked by that. I'm like, what? In those days, I mean, I would think there's
Well, do you
rules
think it
around
was like,
kissing the women, right?
I don't know.
That you just met?
Was it a friendly kiss though? Like a kiss on each cheek, like a European kiss?
No idea. But immediately after that, he lifted his voice and wept. Think about that. I
Mm-hmm.
think he was overwhelmed with emotion
Mm-hmm.
with finding a beautiful daughter of Laban he was drawn to. Because at that time he knew it was Laban's daughter. The shepherds
Yeah.
told him that. So, okay, now we go to Laban's house. And what happens? He meets Laban, right?
He stays there for a month. It says that. He stays there for a month. And then Laban's like, "Hey, I really should pay you for staying here. What can I give you?" And he's like, I really fancy your daughter over here, Rachel. She's very good looking. Can I work for you for basically, can I do slave labor for this woman?
Yeah.
He's, yeah, how about 7 years? He's like,
Mm.
okay.
And actually, it was Jacob who decided on the length of time and how the service would be. And it was 7 years from him, though. He's the one who dictated that.
Mhm.
Did you catch that?
I
It
did.
wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it wasn't Laban. Okay. That was something new to me. I did not know that
Oh.
going into
Well, it
this.
was interesting to me. I feel like there, we're not really talking about women in the Bible, but if there was somebody who was
Yes, we
uh,
are.
motivated motivated by money, it's Laban. He was very motivated by money.
Yes. And we talked about his greed in the last story that we did about Rebecca because he had a little guest appearance there.
He did. He was a precursor to what was happening now. So yes.
Yeah.
So it says in the Bible that Jacob worked for Laban for 7 years and it felt like no time at all because he was
Right.
madly in love with Rachel.
Right. It felt like a few days because of his love
Mhm.
for Rachel. Oh, it was so good. I know. It's like, wow, true love, just smitten.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? Do you want to say?
Well,
The wedding day comes.
there's a wedding. They prepare. It's a week long because back in the Bible day, they partied and they partied
Yeah,
well.
they had a feast.
And a party was a week long. And
Mhm.
so it might have got a little, maybe there was some alcohol. I'm guessing because Jacob didn't know he was actually married to Leah and not Rachel until the morning.
I was wondering too if maybe they had a big veil on her head and, like they didn't, I don't know, like he must not have seen her or it was dark by the time it was night. I don't know. It's a really good question. We don't know. It doesn't say that in the Bible, but we can speculate. I think they're all
Well,
good
and the other
ideas.
thing is, don't you think he would have known what she looked like under a veil at that point? And he'd spent 7 years with this woman, around this woman in her family. I feel like, you can't really, everyone has a special walk, It was a deception. That's all it was. He wakes up, he finds out he's married to Leah and not Rachel, and I think he's devastated.
Mm.
And he goes
And
to his
angry.
father-in-law and angry and says, "Why did you deceive me?" Which is interesting because he deceived his brother. The Bible verse, "What you sow is what you reap." He's reaping what he's been sowing with his brother, Esau, all along the way. So he says, "I want to marry Rachel too." And Laban's excuse is, "I can't let my older daughter not get married first. In our culture, the older one always marries before the younger one."
Right.
I'm glad that's not our case.
Then Laban told Jacob, okay, well, if you want Rachel, you need to work 7 more years, but you can have her after this week of your wedding with Leah is done. Or however you want to say that. It must have been a week long together. Maybe it was some kind of a tradition to be, you're with your wife for a week and then, like go on to your regular schedule or something.
Do you ever wonder if Rachel got a party or do you think just Leah got the wedding party?
I never thought about it.
I mean, did they have another week of wedding? I don't know. It doesn't really say, but I'm like, because that could really stir the pot. Leah got Rachel's wedding that she really wanted. And here's another thing. Here's a whole other piece of this. Leah's in the middle. Did she really want to be in that place? At that point, women were considered property. They weren't necessarily considered. They didn't have rights like we have now. And so Laban to give Leah to Jacob was probably like, I mean, what did she expect that was going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question because she's the oldest.
Did she like Jacob? Was there a part of her that was maybe there was some sibling rivalry between her and her sister? Oh, I wish I could be married to him, but he likes Rachel.
Oh,
There
it's,
could have been
yeah.
some of that. We don't know. We don't really know.
Oh, it's so
Anyways,
interesting. Yeah,
so
it is another dialogue with the sisters. Next up, we're going to start having children now. The Bible reads, Leah was unloved, and God had compassion on her by opening her womb.
mm,
And so guess what? She ends up having, and we're going to go into it, but 6 sons and 1 daughter. And it's interesting because I don't know if you caught this, but the first 3 sons, she proclaimed specific statements about each one. The first one
mhm.
and the second one was about how Jacob would surely love her now. And that was Reuben and Simeon. The third one, surely Jacob will become attached to me because of 3 sons, and named that one Levi. But the fourth one in 29:35, this time I will praise the Lord. What is that
Mm.
name?
Judah.
Which, spoiler, Judah, that's the line of David and Jesus. Okay? David and Jesus come from the line of Judah. So think about that. She was more like self-focused on the first, like, oh, I can't, what's my motivation? I want Jacob to love me and I want him to be attached to me. I want us to be this couple, right?
Family.
And
Mhm.
family
Mhm.
and love each other. And the fourth one, she's like, what? I have to give God praise. He gave me these
Mhm.
sons. And we know that praising God matters. God wants to hear our praise. And I went to Psalm 100, 4 and 5. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. I had to share that because praise is important to the Lord.
It is.
Back to Leah, then she stopped bearing. So she had 4, and then she stopped bearing. And then it talks about Rachel. Rachel was barren. So she's jealous of her sister and says to Jacob, give me children or else I die. And what does Jacob say?
He's angry.
Oh,
He
yeah.
says his anger is aroused against Rachel. And he says, am I in the place of God
Mm.
who has withheld you the fruit of your womb? And she said, this sounds familiar too. Here's my maidservant. Have
Yes.
children with her.
Right.
That sounds like Sarah
Exactly.
with Abraham. Here,
Yes.
take Hagar. Are they reading their history books? Maybe it was very customary to do it in that time. I don't know. But it was like, oh, we've done this, been there,
Yeah.
done this.
Good point. I thought of the same thing. Yeah, so Bilhah was her maid, and Bilhah bore a son, and Rachel saw that as God vindicating her. What do you think of that?
I think she is someone who is hurt that she hasn't had a child. I think she's like any other woman in the same situation who really wants children and can't. And there's a struggle there. In this day and age, we don't normally do it, but then we do other things. We have surrogate parents, we have adoption, there's a lot of different things that we go to instead of waiting on the Lord. I don't know. Is it waiting on the Lord or those ways of God moving in our life in a different way? I have a little story here. I have a couple from my church who they couldn't have children. They tried for 10 years or more to have children. And then they thought, we can't have any children, so we'll adopt. So they ended up getting a child. And the husband always joked. He's like, I had 6 weeks of prep before my baby came. He said, most men get 9 months. He
Oh,
just joked about that. And they had 6 weeks and they got their son. And that was like, I think in October that they got their son. And his wife found out she was pregnant in January. And then they had 3 children after that of their own accord. And I just think, isn't that an interesting, like, God really wanted that son in their family. And if they had their own children, they never would have looked at adoption. So sometimes God has mysterious ways of working. And again, I think the things in this Bible are showing those exact things too, where there's a lot of pain. I'm sure it says she was jealous of her sister. And there was probably a lot of anguish where she wanted her own children.
Really good thoughts. Well, what do you think he did vindicate her, though?
I don't know if it's vindication through that, you think? Having Bilhah have a baby?
She saw it as God vindicating her. Here's one thought I had is she just took things into her own hands. And again, just like you said, like Sarah and Hagar. And so I struggle with that. Did God do this for her?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think so because Rachel said, with great wrestling, I have wrestled with my sister and indeed I have prevailed.
That's the second
So his name
son.
is now. Yeah, that's the second son.
So
from
the
her
first
maidservant.
Yep. So the first one was called Dan, and then Bilhah bore a second son, and like you said, the wrestlings, and named him Naphtali.
Naphtali.
Naphtali. Okay.
Naphtali.
So I just noticed she did not give God the praise and glory. I see a lot of that
No.
self-focus and, like I said, taking matters into her own hands. But now we have dun-dun-dun, Battle of the Childbearing. Here we go. Because Leah counters. Yeah.
Yep. And she sends her Zilpah, her maid, to Jacob. She bears a son.
And we have to mention, it says she gave her maid Zilpah to Jacob as his wife. So not only are they just saying, here, have her, he's taking them as wives. Okay, so Bilhah and Zilpah are now his wives too. I'm going to point that out. So Zilpah bore him a son. Oh, go ahead.
But I also think that they're not main characters in the husband and wife. They're considered maids, so they're like a little step down. They're like B characters or C
I don't know
the story.
I don't know the hierarchy there, unless you do, about the maids in that day.
We don't know.
That's a good question. That's a good point. I don't know. You guys do your research and find out and put it on our Facebook page because we're not sure. We didn't dig that deep. So, so Zilpah bore him a son, and she says, how fortunate. And so named him Gad. And the second son, happy am I, for women call me happy, named him Asher. And then what happens with the mandrakes?
Well, Reuben is the oldest son of Leah, and he comes in from the harvest, and he found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. And did you look up what mandrakes were? I can tell you.
Oh, you know already. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Mediterranean plant from the nightshade family. It is highly praised in the ancient world for its aromatic fragrance and was widely believed to act as an aphrodisiac or fertility aid or a cure for infertility. And who had that issue?
That would be Rachel. And so she wanted them.
Okay, so this is cool. Okay, we're going back in time. Remember Esau? He was real hungry. He came in out of the fields and he's, I'm going to die. He was very dramatic. And he's, give me some of your soup you're making. It smells amazing. And Jacob's, if you give me your
birthright.
If you give me your birthright, I will. So this is kind of the same thing. Reuben brings it to his mother Leah. And when Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. And she said to her, is it a small matter? You have taken away my husband. This is Leah. And now you will take away my son's mandrakes also? Really interesting.
Isn't it though? How her viewpoint is, right?
Those are really biting. Those are some harsh words.
Yeah.
And Rachel said, therefore, you can have him tonight, she said, for your son's mandrake.
You can have Jacob. Yes.
Well, it's just interesting because it sounds like Rachel had a lot more decision for where Jacob got to go, who he got to spend his time with, shall we say.
Yeah, it is interesting how that came to be and the thought behind it, and Jacob going. So Jacob and Leah get together and conceive a son, Issachar, and then conceives another son, Zebulun, and after a time she bore a daughter, Dinah. And then it says, I'm going to read this verse, then God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me another son. And so
I think this is so interesting because when Bilhah has the children, she's like, oh, look at God has vindicated me. God has helped me. God has fixed. And when we come down here and when she actually has her own child, her words are different. And she says, God has taken away my reproach. She feels like she's still not good enough. And all of those, even though God, quote unquote, she's like, I have Dan and Naphtali. And she has those two children through her, but she still feels like she isn't good enough until she has Joseph.
Right.
And I just think that's interesting. Like, how do we look at our life? Do we look at things that God has given us and we don't necessarily
think it's enough?
Yeah. Or what kind of attitude could we take and what kind of place could we be in and how much joy would we have if we just, if Rachel hadn't been always at odds with the people around her, if she had been more joy filled and her focus had been towards God and just been grateful for the life that she had been given, would God have opened her wounds sooner? We don't know. Or would her life have been just different? Or would this story be different? I think sometimes when I read through the Bible, I think, what if they had chosen a different way? What if they had chosen a different attitude? What would have happened?
Yes.
And I honestly, when I get to heaven, I know some people are like, I want to watch the Bible stories that unfold. And I think I want to talk to God and say, what if this hadn't happened? What could have happened? What was your ideal plan when we screwed it up? When we take matters into our own hands, what was your original plan? Because God had a plan, right? For all of us.
Yep.
And sometimes we go our own way because guess what? We are human and we also have free will, and God doesn't want puppets. He wants us to make the choice to serve him, to follow him.
Yep.
And if we don't do that, it's not like his plan is debunked. He still is going to get his plan done. It's just he's going to do it a different route because of how we took over and did our own thing.
Yeah, we do see that in the Bible for sure. And those are really good thoughts. I appreciate that. And my thought on this whole interaction here with Rachel, as she's stating, God has taken away my reproach. I see this as she had a change of heart and maybe some repenting of her ways. And notice that this son that she bore, she named him Joseph. And Joseph has a huge section of the Bible. He does a lot of work for the Lord. So you'll have to check that out. Joseph, the son of Rachel and Jacob. Moving forward, Jacob now, he's been with Laban for a number of years. He has many children. He has many sheep. He has many cattle, a lot of things. They've grown and it's time. It's time for him to leave. And also, it's important to note that Laban was not as friendly to him as he used to be. And God did tell him that it was time for him to leave. So it says here, Laban was no longer friendly to him. He saw him as taking his wealth with the sheep. And this is, again, a longer story. You can read more in Genesis 30 to 31. It's a very interesting story, too. Don't you agree, Bethany?
Yes.
The Lord told Jacob to return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. That is a quote from the Bible. So he tells Rachel and Leah about what is going on with Laban and what the Lord told him, and they respond in agreement that they should go. But guess what? There's a hiccup. Miss Rachel decides that she wants the household idols. Now, hold the phone here because that's an old saying, but we got to stop for a minute. Those household idols, okay, they were her father's, but it's interesting. These people are supposed to be followers of Yahweh, and they have idols. I just went, what? What are they doing? That just, I just stopped, and I just thought, why are you doing this? You know about God and his history and his plan. It just blew me away. How about you? Stuck out to you at all?
It's interesting you thought that. It does. In the fact that when you just said that, I think Rachel had a change of heart, and yet in the next chapter, she's stealing idols. I think she was a lot more like her brother. I don't know.
So you don't think she had a faith in the Lord at all?
I don't know, because God took Abraham away from family and brought him to that land. I honestly think God called Abraham. It was Abraham, the covenant between God and him. I don't know if Sarah's family or their extended family were followers of Christ, because he brought Abraham out of that world, whatever that world was, brought him into a new land, and God separated him and said, this is the way I want you to go. So part of me thinks, no, I don't think they were followers of God, but I think their wives became followers, or some of them did.
It's very interesting. Here we go. Laban then pursues Jacob because he sees everybody's gone. Idols are gone. And he catches up to them and they have this conversation. There's a whole dialogue here. We won't go into all of it, but there's, he's like, why did you leave? And all of these things. And he asks about these idols. Jacob says, the one with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what is yours among my belongings and take it for yourself. And then it says, for Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And I think this is very curious because, just remember that for future because we do have something coming up.
The rest of the story.
The rest of the story. But, okay, here's the thing. Rachel had hid them in her camel's saddle, and she sat on them. So Laban searched all the tents. He searched everywhere. And she said something about, I cannot get up, my lord. I'm in a woman's way. I'm sorry.
Can I say something? Was he really interested in seeing his children away? Or was it the idols that Laban wanted?
Great question.
Here's what I think. Why in the world would he come after them? Was he just upset that his idols were gone? I think.
Could be.
Because Laban was about money. It was about
possessions, greed.
He wanted possessions and everything. And yes, I think he did. He looked at Jacob as a money getter because, he would prosper too because Jacob was prospering.
Right.
But the story, Jacob's sheep were overproducing than Laban's. Then Laban would switch it because he was like, wait a minute, you're getting too much. And so he switched it. So And when I look at this story, I think Laban is greedy. And I think he wants his idols. We don't know what the idols look like. Maybe they were in gold. Maybe he'd put a lot of money into them or decorated them or whatever. And he knew how much money. We don't know.
We don't know.
But
Yeah.
why would he come all that way? I want my idols.
Right.
You know?
You can read this whole story again in this section of Genesis.
So
and there's
much.
more to the story. But it ended peacefully and they continued on. And then meanwhile, on their journey between Bethel and Ephrath, which is also called Bethlehem, Rachel gives birth to a son and names him Ben-Oni, which means son of thy sorrow. And the reason is she had suffered severe labor. And after naming the child, she died. And then Jacob changed the name to Benjamin, which means son of the right hand. Don't you think that possibly her death may have been Jacob's claim to Laban coming to fruition by God's will? The one with whom you find your gods shall not live.
I've often thought that.
Oh, really? Yeah, that struck me when I read through this time. And so Rachel was buried there. And that really is the end of the story for Rachel and Leah. As we said, there's so many different side things that are going on here with the other characters and, the whole sheep thing. There's so many stories. It's super interesting. So we encourage you to read this story. I think we should talk about takeaways, though, with Leah and Rachel. What are your thoughts?
My initial thought was no matter how your life turns out, because I've often thought this too, we plan things, we dream, we do all these things, we think, oh, this is what my life's going to become. And then it's not. You wake up one day and you realize, my life is not what I thought it was going to be. And it's not a bad thing, but what are you going to do with that information once you wake up and decide, oh, this isn't how life is. It's not what I planned, or this isn't how I saw my life going. What do you do with when you come to that realization? I think, is God in that? Is God in the little details of the differences? Can you see God moving through your life and maybe putting you in different paths or different plan that he has for you versus what you have for yourself? I think Leah, I don't know if she ever was fulfilled in her life. Did Jacob ever love her? We don't know. Rachel, can you just be satisfied with your life as it is? You got your guy, I don't know.
Well said.
You did have to share it with your sister, which that's probably not ideal, but I don't know. What are your takeaways?
I think you summed it up really well. I would add, God is going to be there for you no matter what. So be aware of God's compassion and that he's going to answer whatever prayer you have in his timing. You're having a hard time, but the peace of God that he gives during that waiting too is a true blessing, and how he works through everyone too, including the marginalized. Look at Leah and how she ended up she had the son, Judah, and how that ends up being the line of David, the line of Jesus. So he sees everyone and he's there for everyone. So I think that's a big takeaway.
And I also think too, if we look through this pattern and we see how God works, he never takes the flashy. Look at Rahab, look at Esther, look at Ruth.
Right. There's a lot of examples.
We're going to close here, but we want to let you know that our next episode is about Mary Magdalene. And we're going to find out more about her.
Yes.
So stay tuned, keep listening, and let's remember one more thing, to pour
out
your
joy.
I pray, Lord, right now, as the person who is choosing you for the first time or renewing the relationship, Lord, that they will pray something like this. Lord, I have sinned and I have fallen short of the glory of God. I cannot do anything. I cannot be good enough to get into heaven, Lord. Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and I see that, and I believe that, and I receive that into my heart, into my life, into my being, Lord, and I ask that you would take away the sin, cleanse me from all unrighteousness, so that I can live in the home with you in heaven for eternity. And I ask these things in your wonderful holy name. Amen.